We're waiting for technical things to start. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to All People's Church Unitarian Universalist. My name is Annie Furster, and for the rest of this month, I minister to this incredible congregation.
And my name is Lori McKitka, and I also welcome you to the newly named All People's Church Unitarian Universalist. Annie, you kind of paused before you said the new name.
The old name is still on my tongue and in my ear, and it's still on the books. It hasn't completely gone away. I wanted to get it right.
What do you mean it's still on the books?
Oh, well, we haven't yet changed the corporate name with the state of Texas. We haven't yet notified the UUA. We've only begun the work that's involved in changing who we are to be called.
But we can still use the new name, right?
Yeah. You bet. And funny story about that. I told a friend from Westside that we changed our name, and I told her what it was, and she said, "But it's so long." And I said, "Well, it's only one more syllable than Westside." And then I got an inspiration, and I said to her, "If it's too long for you, you can just call us y'alls." Yeah. So welcome to y'alls. And those of you who voted for the other name can, if you wish, in the privacy of your own home and among friends, call yourself First Y'alls. See, the thing is, we welcome whoever comes through these doors by whatever name you call yourself. Welcome, y'all. Lori, do you have any announcements?
Yes, I do. Eastside Ministries fundraiser. Eastside Ministries, a social service nonprofit that our church helped to establish 35 years ago, is having a fundraiser on Saturday, June 18th from 5 to 7 p.m. There will be grilled hot dogs and hamburgers and music provided by the East Fort Worth Community Jazz Band, all free.
Wow.
It will be in the Fellowship Hall at Meadowbrook Pauley United Methodist Church, their name's as bad as ours, at 3900 Meadowbrook Drive. Vegetarian options will be available. You will be asked to make a donation to support the work of Eastside. Reservations are required. See the flyer on our church bulletin board and scan the QR code to reserve a spot. Or you can call Eastside at 817-466-3278. Donations are urgently needed to allow Eastside to continue.
Okay, let me interrupt. It's not on the bulletin board, it's on the window. Look for it as you go out.
And I do this one.
And you've got some more, yeah.
And I have another one. Special thank you to Jan Ross, Tony Ross, Roy Bake, and David Bindi for helping to clean up after the torrential rain on Thursday flooded the church. Rainwater came in the choir door and the front door and flooded the choir room, the sanctuary, the library, the hallway, boys and girls bathrooms, part of Annie's office, and part of Carl's office, and Coleman Hall. Again, thanks to Jan Ross, Tony Ross, Roy Brake, and David Bindi.
Thank you. Yes. And if that's all, let us begin our worship with music. Just in case you're wondering, there is no order of service today because Carl is on vacation and printing the order of service is not in my job description. I think you're going to help me with this, Lori, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Our call to worship is called We Come to Be Blessed. It was written by the Reverend Scott Taylor. We come today longing and looking for blessing. In our loneliness, may we find the blessing of connection.
In our doubt, may we feel the reassurance of a love that will not let us go.
In the dullness of our senses, may the blessings of unexpected gifts be ours.
In our fear, may the blessing of courage return.
And in our blindness to the beauty around us, may we look up and around one more time.
May it help us notice the blessings that are always waiting for us and wanting to tell us
that we are now and always at home. Please join us in singing our opening hymn. It's number 1000 in the Teal hymnal, but the words will be on the screen. Please stand. Please stand. Let us come, arise and greet the day. With joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope is shone upon each face. May it bring praise to guide our journey. The chalice lighting was written by the Reverend Lisa Doge. Why? No, this is you.
Why a flaming chalice? The question comes.
Just a minute while I light it.
Sorry.
The candle's already almost burned out, and I don't want to put it out. There. Magic. Reneel, could you move a little to your right? Thank you. It's the cup of life, we answer. A cup of blessings overflowing.
A cup of water to quench our spirit's thirst. A cup of wine for celebration and dedication.
The flame of truth, the fire of purification.
Oil for anointing, healing. Out of chaos, fear, and horror, thus was the symbol crafted generations ago.
So may it be for us in these days of uncertainty, sorrow, and yes, rage, and a light to warm our souls and guide us home. Lori, will you lead us in the affirmation?
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Please be seated. So my questions this morning for the service, practicing blessings, are what exactly is a blessing? What is the proper way of conveying it? And does counting your blessings really help? Think about that for a while. And we have something very special going on today. I'm going to invite Sarah Barrel-Harrop up to the front here, who is going to help us dedicate our very dedicated teachers.
I am an old lady. Steps terrify me.
So there is
after me. For this we thank you. Okay, great. Y'all know you're right. So when I go like this, it's your turn. So you, dear teachers, you have served us so well. And you held steady in this time of dynamic change. You carefully held and tended the hearts and minds of our children, our youth, and the adults in the congregation. And for this we thank you. You attended meetings, you studied lesson plans, and you animated those lessons. You gave your energy to special events. You have brought a spirit of dedication, of your love, and a deep, abiding faith in the growing, evolving spiritual community that is all people's Unitarian Universalist church. And so by your service, you helped nurture and meet our needs for personal and community spiritual growth and a mutually caring community. You've helped devote ourselves to religious learning for all ages, to embracing human diversity by welcoming individuals and families of all kinds, and to join with the larger community to promote love, justice, and service to society. And this. Okay. So as a small symbol of our appreciation and a reminder of this very special season of reopening, our youth have some gifts for each of our RE council leaders and teachers, including, we'll be sure that everyone who's not up here who has served gets a gift. And give Julie a gift too. She's back there. All right, so teachers, it's your turn. And to all of you out there in the congregation, you also have the opportunity to participate in this vital ministry that's religious education. May this litany serve to remind you that we all have the ability and sometimes the obligation to say yes to service in the community, and may each of you accept an invitation to say yes to a new opportunity, whatever it is, a new opportunity for service. Yes to an opportunity to nurture your spirit. We trust that you will find the right way to nurture your spirit and serve the community. And teachers?
For this, we thank you.
And congregation? Thank you.
Touching. And I don't know if we have any children or youth in that want to come up for the story. If not, I'm going to tell it from up here. Oh, you're all coming up? I'm willing. I think our families with little children are both out of town this week. So I have a story about two brothers, and it's an old story. They think it came from the Talmud, the early Jewish teachings, but it may have older roots in Muslim and Hindu cultures. It's a story that should be told everywhere, and it goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who died and left his land to his two sons. They divided the land evenly and built their own houses on opposite sides of the property. The younger brother got married and he had a family. The older brother did not marry, but he lived alone in his house. And both brothers remained very friendly, and they worked the land together. And they often helped each other out in many ways. Well, one year at harvest time, both brothers undertook the process of harvesting their own crop of barley. And they bundled the stalks of grain into sheaves, and they counted them and took them into the barns to store. And later they would take some of it to the market to sell. After a long day at work, the brothers usually slept very well, as you can imagine. But on this night, the older brother just couldn't go to sleep. He kept thinking, this isn't right. My brother has a family. I live here all alone. Some of my grain should go to help him raise his family. He has extra people to feed. He needs the extra food, the extra money. So instead of going to sleep, he got dressed and he went out to the barn and he gathered as many stalks of barley as he could manage into his arms, and he marched across the field and he put them in his brother's barn. And when he did that, he felt better and he returned to bed and went right to sleep. Well, the younger brother had also slept badly that night. He awoke and lay worrying. He too thought of his brother. He says, "It's not right that I should reap so much grain, and same as my brother. I have a family to help me harvest it and to care for me in my old age when he works all by himself and there'll be nobody to take care of him." So he got up and he got dressed and he went to his barn not long after his brother had left, and there he took as many sheaves as he could carry and he marched across the field and put them in his brother's barn. Then he returned and went to bed and went right to sleep. Well, the next day the two brothers got up and went out to their barns, and they were absolutely amazed at what they saw. The grain that they had taken to put in the other barn wasn't missing at all. Their barn was full. So again, they worked all day. They didn't say anything to each other. They didn't say what had happened, but they were just so puzzled. The next night they did the same thing. First the older brother gathered up his sheaves of grain and he carried him to his brother's barn, and then the younger brother gathered up some sheaves of grain and carried him to his brother's barn. They almost ran into each other, but they missed each other narrowly. And again, the next day they got up. The barns were full. What happened to that grain they had taken out and carried away? But they both kept their thoughts to themselves, which was probably a big mistake, right? And then on the third night, they rose a little bit later than usual. The moon had gone down, and they went to the barns, and again they carried as much as they could carry across the field and headed out to the other barn. But halfway there, they almost bumped into one another. And they both stopped and said, "Oh, this is what's happened." What they saw made them smile, and then they laughed, and they dropped their sheaves of barley on the ground, and they hugged one another for a long, long time. And they both promised one another that they would always be there to help one another, no matter what. And then each one knelt down right there in the field, and they thanked their God for giving them such a wonderful, generous brother. I think that's a beautiful story. I think it's one of those stories that you can interpret for your own family, whether you've got a brother or a sister or not, that we all are here to take care of one another. And sort of, I think, what happens here in this church. That's why all those teachers said they love doing the service they do, because they might miss something else. I know that the kitchen crew is out there getting ready for the potluck, and they're not in here, though they'd like to be, but they love doing that kind of work. So I'm going to remember the story of the two brothers, and I hope you do too. So let us sing our youth and our non-children back to their places. Light our hearts as we
weeks ago at our congregational meeting, we learned that we had received sufficient pledges to maintain our budget. We still have money left from the NTUC grants we received to maintain a full staff. We are blessed by your generosity already exhibited. This community is much like family, brothers and sisters helping one another, having one another's backs. In our good fortune to have one another, we find it possible to share with others as well. This quarter, we are sharing the plate with TLC, Tarrant Literacy Coalition, helping adults and children learn to read and abolish illiteracy in our area. So thank you for your past generosity, and as the greeters pass among you, please continue to be generous.
And since I didn't write an order of service, I kept putting things in that I forgot to tell people about, so no words will be on the screen. But I thought it would be nice if we sang a hymn of gratitude to one another. So take out your hymnals in the old way and turn to number 402. You can play this, you've done it before. And you could have done it anyway. And we'll sing it twice. So you want to play it first, and then we'll sing it twice. And stay seated. From you I receive. Of service, I am very powerful. I can do whatever I want because you don't know what's coming next. But what's coming next is my first response to all those questions, which I've called how to give a blessing. And before I tell my own story, I want to tell a story written by a colleague of mine, the Reverend Kathleen McTeague, and she wrote this in her book, Shine and Shadow. And she said, when I arrived at the checkout counter and the clerk distractedly said, "How are you?" my brain went blank. I couldn't say fine or even okay. To my horror, I found myself blurting out a real, honest answer. "I'm not so good," I said. "My dad died last night." And then I was mortified at having revealed to an unprepared stranger just how not fine I was, and everyone froze in this moment of uncomfortable paralysis, except the young man who was bagging the groceries, who had Down syndrome. He stopped moving completely. He looked straight at me, and with a little slur and great emphasis said, "I bet you feel really sad about that." "Yes, I do, thank you," I said to him. And I thought about that encounter for a long time. The young man bagging groceries would be considered disabled by some, disabled in thought and speech and sometimes in movement. Yet he was the only one able to offer to me what counted in that particular moment. He knew how to give a blessing. And then she asks, "Do you know how to give a blessing?" And I thought about that, and I thought, okay, you sneeze, I say, "Bless you." And what does it mean? What I mean it to mean is, I hope you're okay, I hope you're not coming down with something. But in reality, it's just an automatic response, a habit, something someone says when you sneeze. If I meant it to mean all that, why don't I just say that? Or why don't you complain? Why don't you say, "You call that a blessing?" But we both accept the habit of it and move on. Neither of us is blessed. Or how about this one? You're in the grocery store yourself, checking out. You've chit-chatted with the clerk ringing you up, who started the conversation with, "How are you?" And you responded, "Fine," and you, or not, whatever you're used to doing. A non-conversation took off from there, or not. She gives you the total, you push the cart, she gives you your receipt, and then she says, "Have a blessed day." You either don't respond or you throw back something like, "Oh, you too." Do either of you feel blessed? Does the day change for you? My guess is no. My guess is if you're like me, you could really, that on a day when you could really use a blessing, you feel slightly annoyed. You think you know what she means, at least where she's coming from, and you have assumed a superior stance to her blessing because you think it comes from a different faith position than yours, and you aren't having it. You almost want to brush it off. Yeah, so how should you give a blessing? What is a blessing anyway? I went to my usual source. I asked Google. And I wasn't surprised by the answer. Number one definition is this: God's favor and protection. Now down around number 4, there is this: a beneficial thing for which one is grateful, something that brings well-being. And I think that's what the Reverend McTeague was talking about. That's what this service is talking about. That kind of blessing. Okay, get that sneezy thing and the blessed day thing out of your head. As I said, it's habit, and it's a one-way conversation. One-way conversation is when you say something and what the person you said it to hears something completely different. The way to give a blessing, a proper, beneficial, well-being blessing, is to say what the person you are talking to needs to hear. Not as easy as it sounds. So the next time I hear you sneeze, I'm going to try not to react out of habit. I'm going to try to say something like, oh, I hope you're not coming down with something. Or, the pollen count is really high today. I hope you aren't suffering from allergies. Or maybe I'll say nothing at all because we all sneeze from time to time simply to clear out our breathing apparatus. And if you sneeze into your elbow, I will count that as a blessing to me. Thank you. And the well-meaning checkout clerk, well, I'm going to assume she's sincere and will simply thank her for her kind wishes. And I'll tell you what else I've learned about blessing after the choir offers us a blessing this morning of music. And as they come forward, I can tell you because it's not printed in your order of service. They are going to sing What Love Can Do by Mark Burroughs. Laurie, we're going to do this one out from behind the pulpits because we're dancing it, right? Yes. Okay. This is a body blessing written by the Reverend Lisa Beauvais Kemper. While we're still thinking about how to give a blessing, Laurie and I want to share with you a body blessing from Lisa Beauvais Kemper, and it goes like this.
May you be blessed with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. May your intellect take you far on your journey. You have been blessed with reason and free will, and it is your call every day to use these gifts.
And may you be blessed with voice. May you learn the complex nature of truth-telling, the ability to speak the truth in love to something that requires honesty, empathy, and care. You are challenged every day to seek joy that comes with sharing your truth compassionately, as well as listening to others.
May your heart be full and blessed with love. May you know the agony of heartbreak as it is intertwined with the elation of true love. Your heart is a strong and resilient organ, one that will be with you until the end of your time on earth. May you heed the wisdom of your heart and always trust the truth it tells.
You are blessed with the gift of sexuality. May you always remember that you are a beloved child of creation. Your body is sacred and it belongs to you alone. May you live into the full expression of your identity as a human being, embracing your true sexual and gender identity. The gift of sexuality brings with it many rewards as well as many great responsibilities. May you always retain power over your own being, striving toward mutuality, fulfilling, and just relationship.
When you were a baby, your tiny hands were your first contact with the world. Before you could see more than a few feet in front of your face, you grasped the finger of your loved ones. You catch yourself with your hands when you fall, and you express love and comfort to others with them too. May your hands be gentle and strong. May you use them to carry light into the darkness and rest to the weary. May your hands always find the place of greatest need, beginning with your own, and may the Creator of all things hold you in the palm of her hand wherever you go.
And finally, may you be blessed on your journey. May you remember that growth happens on the journey and that you are never alone. May you always remember that you are a whole person, that each of these parts work together. We offer our blessing upon your body, your mind, and your spirit. May you be guided by compassion and truth, justice and love. May you find rest on the journey, always remembering where you came from, being mindful that your ancestors stand behind you, whether they are present on earth or have gone back to the soul of the world. May you be blessed in all things and carry with you blessings wherever you go. Thank you, Laurie.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk now about non-blessings. If you want to know how important a thing is, study what it isn't. I looked up the antonyms for blessing. Do you know there were 1,569 of them? 1,569 non-blessings. 1,569 ways that things can go wrong for you that one true blessing could correct. Very important things, these blessings. Really important to learn to do them properly and then to find the antidote to hatred, disapproval, bad luck, blame. That's just some of them. I'm not going to give them all to you. I was directed by my research on blessings to a video on YouTube called The Labels We Carry. When you can, I recommend you watch it. It is a 4-minute sermon on the topic of blessings, but I will describe it to you in the meantime. It begins with a young man walking into a coffee shop to get a cup of joe from a rude-looking waitress. We see his body all covered with labels, single words that have been pasted onto his clothing. Freak, stupid, deadbeat. The clerk hands him a cup of coffee and another label, loser. Resigned, he pastes it to his chest and he walks away. And when he turns his back, you can see more labels there. Ugly, jerk, weird. He drops a sugar packet and a customer in the coffee shop hands him another label, clumsy. He puts it on and he walks away. His shoulders are slumped and he walks down the street. More labels are handed to him. Nerd, unfixable. His face is a picture of misery as he attaches them. They cling to his body. And then a man comes toward him, smiling. And he hands him a label that makes the first man, stop in his tracks. He reads it. He turns and he looks back at the man, a question on his face. He reads the label again, and out of habit he slaps it on his chest. And then a remarkable thing begins to happen. All the other labels start falling to the ground like feathers molting from a bird. Only the last label remains, and it says, loved. And when the camera pans to his face, he is smiling and his shoulders are lifted and his walk is proud and unburdened. You can't watch the video without the burning threat of tears. I'm just telling you. And they're there. Something else we do out of habit, out of thoughtlessness, sometimes purposely and sometimes with a vengeance. We label people. A single word will do. Often we don't stop with just one. Jerk, nerd, screw up, idiot, bumped into me, clumsy idiot. Adjectives refine our name calling. Didn't respond to my friendly hello, stuck up, jerk. Corrected my pronunciation of your name, pretentious nerd. Remember what we said in the playground? Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Totally not true. They stick. Labels stick. And whatever cosmic glue makes them adhere works their way inside and weakens the soul. They are the opposite of blessings. As a group, as a religious community, we try really hard not to be label makers. We put up signs outside our building that we call blessings, answering the call to love. No human being is illegal. Love is love. All genders are whole, holy, and good. We are a welcoming congregation. All people's church. But we are human beings, and we're subject to bouts of anger, moments of disgruntlement, experiences of humiliation, and the easiest way to counteract them is to shout out a non-blessing, an antonym to a blessing, a label that reflects our hurt feelings, just like every other human being on the planet is prone to do. I could just tell you not to do that anymore, but I do it myself. And that would be simplistic of me. I know you've promised yourself more than once not to do it. We aren't those kinds of people. But we all need reminders. We need to be reminded how unblessings work and how blessings cure them. We need to celebrate blessings as a spiritual practice. We need to wrap our arms around ourselves and bless ourselves, and then wrap our arms around someone else. We need to deserve the name All People's Church Unitarian Universalist. All people will be blessed here, you will say, and then add, forgive me if I'm having a bad day and forget to tell you that. This is the time in our service when we share with one another the happenings, the stories that live in this community. This book, which is almost at an end, but there's another empty book waiting, is out in the lobby so that you can share your stories. And I have 2 to share with you today. Neither one of them very happy stories. Dale husband is still unemployed, but he gets a ton of job offers that seem highly questionable, to put it mildly. So if you know of anything that Dale might look into, please let him know. And this some of you have already heard. On the 29th of May at 4 a.m., our beloved Muriel Lee passed away. Although she has been absent since COVID started, we know that she will be missed in this community. Her memorial will be on Friday, the 17th of June, beginning at 11 a.m. There will be a lunch that follows, and it will be here in this sanctuary. We haven't seen Muriel for a long time, but I know that she has been on a lot of people's minds, and they have mentioned her from time to time. I also want to remind you that out in the lobby we are looking at rewriting our vision statement, and there's an opportunity for you to sign up whatever it is that you want to have in the vision statement, and we will be working on that during the summer. Also, you had asked me to create a collection of sermons to share with you, and I said yes, I would do that as a fundraiser. They are also out in the lobby now. There are 2 types. There are those bound in black that will go for $20 each, and that there are those bound in red and signed by the author that you can give $25 for, if you will. So that is out there for you to look at before you go to potluck this afternoon. Let us take a moment to be in a spirit of meditation. And I want to share with you a spoken blessing as we do that. One that was written come from a book called A Circle of Grace, a book of blessings for the seasons. So let us be in a spirit of meditation, closing our eyes, sitting back, thinking of the stories that live in this community. Look, the world is always ending somewhere. Somewhere the sun has come crashing down. Somewhere it has gone completely dark. Somewhere it has ended with a gun, a knife, a fist. Somewhere it has ended with a slammed door, a shattered hope. Somewhere it has ended with the utter quiet that follows the news from the phone, the television, the hospital room. Somewhere it has ended with a tenderness that will break your heart. But listen, this blessing means to be anything but morose. It has not come to cause despair. It is simply here because there is nothing a blessing is better suited for than an ending. Nothing that cries out more for a blessing than when a world is falling apart. The blessing will not fix you, will not mend you, will not give you false comfort. It will not talk to you about one door opening and another closing. It will simply sit itself beside you among the shards and gently turn your face toward the direction from which the light will come, gathering itself about you as the world begins again. The service will run long today, but it will give the kitchen crew more time to set up the potluck. However, if you needed to go be somewhere shortly after 12, we will understand if you need to leave. I want to talk about counting your blessings as my final response. You've heard it before, count your blessings. There are a number of programs, authors who've received fame and remuneration for setting up programs that have you start out each morning writing pages about the good things that happened to you the day before. Or to list each evening before you go to bed 3 or 5 good things that happened to you today. Some people do this in notebooks they keep on for this occasion. Some people do it publicly on Facebook. I've read several of those, or on Twitter. I do it on my computer. It makes you feel good. It makes you think about the good things in your life. It makes you aware, makes you pay attention so that you seek out those kinds of blessings every day as they occur. For a while, anyway. It doesn't last. New studies show the self-blessings, the counting the blessings, they don't last. They become routine. They become as meaningless as saying bless you when someone sneezes. But there's a new doctor of feel-good in town. Instead of reflecting on the positive things that happen to you, instead of counting your blessings, the new wisdom to do this is to do this instead. Reflect on what your life or your day or your week would have looked like in the absence of a particular blessing you've already received. Undo it in your mind. Picture a counterfactual world where that blessing never happened. According to one article I found online, instead of asking participants to reflect on the presence of a positive event, like, I'm grateful I met my wife, they ask participants to reflect on its absence. What if I'd never met my wife? In other words, they asked participants to undo the positive events in their lives and picture a counterfactual world where that positive had never happened. And the results they reported were striking. According to at least 4 studies on this topic, subtraction of positive events counteracts our tendency to take them for granted. Ever wonder why we remember slights and insults longer than we remember compliments? Ever question why our recollections go so easily to the bad things that happen to us rather than the good? I think it's an evolution thing. I think it was a way to protect us from another crisis, another hurtful situation once we learn that can happen. But we're past that. We need to find a way to bring more blessings to ourselves and to the rest of the world. We need to evolve in a new direction. What if I hadn't taken advantage of the free education policy the corporation I worked for offered? Most employees that worked with me didn't. I might still be a secretary, which is not a bad thing, but I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have traveled or known the things I know. What if I hadn't gone to seminary because I was too old to change careers, as I told myself when the thought first occurred to me? I wouldn't have known any of you. See? It works. You've got to celebrate your blessings. You really do. But you've got to find them. You've got to remember them. You've got to say, what would happen if this hadn't happened to me? And if they don't come from someone named God, they come from the universe itself. We've got to accept them. We've got to learn to give decent, real blessings, not ones that go out of habit. Learn to give them to yourself first. Imagine extinguishing non-blessings from your vocabulary, from your life. Practice removing blessings to see how truly blessed that you are and have been and will be again if you let it happen. We have to practice love, starting with ourselves. We have to celebrate our blessings, learn how to give them, and learn how to accept them. Sometimes that's the harder thing, isn't it? Be amazed how full the world is of blessings. Don't focus on the hate that the evening news blares at you. Focus on love. As it says in our closing hymn, number 18 in our hymnal, the words will be on the screen this time. I extinguish our chalice now. First, the lights that were shared with the stories that live among us, the stories of sorrow and of hope. And then our chalice, which is the symbol of our community, which we take with us home in our hearts, in our minds. The benediction this morning was written by the Reverend Gary Kowalski. He said, "And now may the blessings of life be upon us and upon this congregation. May the memories we gather here give us hope for the future. May the love that we share bring strength and joy to our hearts, and the peace of this community be with us until we meet again. So may it be in all our lives." But before you go, I want to invite you to join the potluck, even if you hadn't planned on it or didn't bring something. Talk for a few minutes and then head into Coleman Hall. Everyone is welcome. If you didn't bring something, you can put a $5 in the collection jar. The kitchen crew often goes out to buy extra fried chicken when there isn't enough food that was brought in, so they could use the money. You didn't get an order of service today, but you will instead receive a blessing as you leave, reminding you to look up the references to which I alluded during my response. So don't have a blessed day. Be the blessing that you are meant to be, and everything will be fine. Thank you.